Folks, we've talked about the Goon Squad in Mississippi, 6 white cops who brutalized 2 black men. Well, they pled guilty to federal charges. Now they have learned their fate in state charges. The 5 former Rankin County deputies and a former Richland police officer pled guilty to state charges in August for their involvement in a racist assault against Michael Corey Jenkins and Eddie Terrell Parker. The disgraced law enforcement officers have already been sentenced between 10 to 40 years in federal prison. Rankin County Circuit Judge Steve Ratcliff sentenced Brett McAlpin, Jeffery Middleton, and Daniel Opdyke to 15 years for hindering prosecution and 5 years for conspiracy to commit hindering prosecution. Jousha Hartfield got 10 years for hindering prosecution and 5 years for conspiracy to hinder prosecution. Christopher Dedman got 20 years in prison for burglary and 5 years for conspiracy. Hunter L. Ward got 20 years for aggravated assault, 20 years for burglary, and 5 years for conspiracy to commit hindering prosecution. The state sentences will run concurrently with federal sentences. They must permanently surrender their law enforcement certificates. I mean, you see right here these 6 thugs and what they did. And the bottom line is, let's not even believe for a second this was an isolated incident, Robert.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, Roland. You know, for every one case like this that comes to light, we had this with the Red Dogs in Atlanta years ago. So many law enforcement agencies around the country have squads of this nature, have groups of this nature. And often in the name of public safety, in the name of combating crime, because, you know, communities, when crime goes up, they get very lax on human rights all of a sudden. They are able to put these units out there, but we've seen over and over again the excesses that happen when you give officers this type of power and this lack of accountability. I'm glad that these officers have been brought to justice, but we have to work on making the wholesale changes to law enforcement and criminal justice reform in this country. This is why it's important for us to still push for, even in this election year, that George Floyd Justice for Policing Act.
What you see here were just simply 6 thugs, 6 gang members with badges and guns, Scott.
Yeah, and there are goon squads like this still in existence. The police department and police chiefs, who should resign in this case but hasn't, tolerate it as this kind of mantra that to catch thugs or to stop crime in the roughest parts of the neighborhood, you need a rough unit. Well, no, you don't. You just need a unit that's going to do good police work and do it by the book. But this whole idea that you don't want to know how we solve crimes in tough communities because it's the price you pay for democracy or your constitution or for a safer community. It's all bullshit, basically. There's nothing good about what these people did. They've done it before, and senior management and police departments know they exist. They tolerate it with a blink or a nod until something like this happens. And 9 times out of 10, it happens to poor black people, the least, the lost, and the left out. And then they're prosecuted or they're fired from the police force, but the damage has been done already. It's just pathetic.
Yeah, and so certainly glad to see these thugs brought to justice.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.